Good evening, everybody. This is Nerdicane. I want to do a little something different. I've been down in the basement moving some stuff around and found some of my old long boxes. And I love the X-Men, as a lot of you know. They were my first team. They're really the ones that I love the most. I want to do something a little different involving X-Men Blue 1. That's the X-Men team I've been following. I'm way late to the party. This series is on like issue 9. But I thought it would be really neat to go back and do a comparison with this classic, X-Men 1. The similarity and what kind of made me think of this is this was the brand new X-Men series when I first started getting into comics. And, you know, now that I'm back buying comics again, this is the new X-Men series. So I want to do a contrast and comparison between this was released in 91, this was released in 2017, two very different eras of Marvel Comics. The first thing you do as soon as you touch it, this is newsprint. If anybody who watches this works for Glade or a company that makes air fresheners, if you could make an air freshener that smells like old newsprint, I would buy it. This comic, as they do nowadays, you kind of start with a cast of characters, kind of breaks it down for you. I like this. I like this in the new era of Marvel Comics. Here's credit to the people who worked on it. No offense to them. I'm sure they're doing a good job. Well, sort of. But this is Chris Claremont, Jim Lee. And look at this. For the Milkshake Crew, Suzanne Gaffney was assistant editor back in 91. So hiring women as assistant editors, not something new. Marvel's been ahead of that curve for a long time. So, little contrast in the way this is made. This book encompasses one fight, and it's really neat. It's a good fight. Black Tom and Juggernaut. And the fight really has kind of an ebb and flow. The X-Men have advantage, then Black Tom has advantage, then the X-Men have advantage, and then Juggernaut shows up. Whereas this is the X-Men book from the 90s. This doesn't even start out with the X-Men. This starts out with sort of a Star Wars-esque desperate space chase. You don't really have any frame of reference. You don't know who these people are. You don't know what's going on. And boom, splash page, Magneto shows up. So that's the first fight. These fights were quick, but there was a lot of them in each book. Cut to the X-Men and their training. I really like this sequence. It sets up a little bit of characterization of Professor X. He's just come back to the X-Men. He's a little unsure because he's gotten a lot of X-Men killed over the years. And then it lays the groundwork for that. Then you cut to the first part of the fight. And the difference in these fights and the way they're written. This right here, these X-Men have survived so much. Extinction Agenda, Fall of the Mutants, Inferno. This is written as a veteran team. They've been around, they've seen the worst of it, and they've survived it. Cool thing though, cool recurring theme. Seems that like anything, the only thing you need to do to take out Iceman is destroy his slide, because here you go. He's pretty much rendered ineffective for the rest of this exercise. And in the new book, you break his slide, he's going to have trouble getting back into the fight. And now I should, kind of an example of this being written as a veteran team. And Chris Claremont is the writer's writer of comic books. He shows that this right here, this was the noisy front door attack. This is the attack that they're supposed to respond to. Where this part of the team, Psylocke, Gambit, and Wolverine, are the covert, going through the basement, through the sewers to get in. They get detected and they send some drones. Which, excellent. Jim Lee, even back in 1991, Jim Lee was just the top of his craft, and he still is today. Just these fight scenes, the way they're laid out, they're so descriptive and so good. Here we cut to Gambit, kind of a wild card, getting the drop on Jean Grey. And boom. Now, in going back and reading this panel right here, I think the SJWs of today would have such a problem with this panel, this page. Back in 91, we didn't think anything of it. It was Gambit. He's overtly flirty, a little aggressive. That's Gambit. But it shows he was making out with a droid and got his face blown up. Cut to this great action sequence, this surprise. Wolverine just pops up through the floor. And this, I love this panel. I remember this panel when I was a kid, mostly for this robot right here. I kind of wish he had gotten a name, because he's still clinging to Wolverine, like he's gonna do something. All his buddies are dead, but he's hanging on. He's gonna take Wolverine down in just a couple more minutes. All right, cut to the end of the exercise. Scott wants to run it again. Wolverine's like, nope, I ain't doing that. So there you go. Right then and there, we just had two quick fights. Cut to Nick Fury calling the X-Men for help. This was 91. You gotta remember, the Avengers were like barely a blip on the radar. The Avengers would be like the guest in the X-Men book, because back then, 91, it was all mutants all the time. Cut to the asteroid. Once again, we're gonna have like another little fight, and this is kind of, Magneto didn't want to have anything to do with all this back then, but this kind of drew him in, seeing a mutant killed right in front of him. And this panel right here, I love this panel. You see a very distraught Magneto, kind of angry. The screen goes dark, and then his gaze turns back to Earth and the non-mutants down there. So once again, boom, 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 we just had another fight. That's 3 fights in one issue. Cut to the X-Men dispatching, and Magneto's going to the surface to steal some nukes. Once again, this is written as a veteran X-Men team. This right here, these 3 are the front door. You know, these are the ones that are supposed to draw his attention. Meanwhile, the Blackbird is coming up behind him. And, of course, Blackbird's sort of made of metal. Magneto sees it. And the counter to that is brilliant. This is brilliant writing. This is the Blackbird delivering Beast, delivering Gambit. They know that the first 2 layers of their attack are going to get taken out, because this is Magneto. This is an Omega-level mutant they're dealing with. So they're not just going to kick the door in and punch him in the nose. They have to go with a different veteran 3-pronged diversionary tactic, which is great writing. And in here, you'll see this in the new book as well. Gambit says he's charging this stuff not enough to kill. He doesn't want to kill him. So he's not trying to kill Magneto. He's trying to kind of subdue the situation. Same with Betsy. Betsy's not really trying to kill Magneto. And then you get Wolverine. Wolverine's definitely trying to put his claws through his head. And Scott sees this and has to de-escalate the situation by getting some distance between them. And this is really neat. You see kind of Magneto's not this infallible supervillain. He's on the ropes in this situation. He's got to get away. So that becomes his objective, just get away. He's going up in the air. Rogue gives pursuit. Then the Russians get involved, guns blazing, and set off a nuke. And then the X-Men are trying to find Rogue, and she is on Genosha. Once again, another fight. This is like the 4th fight in the book. These are the Acolytes looking for Rogue, and they're having the X-Men have shown up. Once again, great action sequences, takes you through the whole thing. Beautiful art, beautiful layouts. And it ends with Magneto showing up, and that's kind of the climax of the fight, but it's also the end of the issue. Here's something a little different that I noticed from the 2. This is their kind of like meanwhile page. Just 3 panels, and it sets you up. It builds intrigue, and that's it. There's more subplot going on. This one, this is written as a young team. Iceman can barely be bothered to be interested in what's going on. They're a young team. They're shown going in they don't have a whole lot of intel. They don't know who's on that boat. They don't know what they're facing. And that'll kind of bite them in the butt here in a little while. Once again, written as a young team, all 5 of them are kicking the door in. That's not what this team would do, but this is an inexperienced kind of green team. They're facing off against Black Tom. I don't know why he's dressed as a 1920s magician, but okay, I'll go with it. So you see the ebb and flow. You see Black Tom on the ropes, and then you see the X-Men have the advantage, and then once again, young team, they didn't have all the intel. They went in there, they didn't realize Juggernaut was there. So now Black Tom and Juggernaut have the advantage. They've pulled the surprise. And this is different because it's just one fight, but they do a lot of detail in the fight. It's a running battle. Here they touch on something really neat that I like in X-Men Blue. This is Juggernaut. He doesn't know that this Scott, this Cyclops, is not the Cyclops who killed his brother, Professor Xavier. So he doesn't really know, but he thinks that that's who he is. So he focuses his attack on that. And I kind of like that theme, that this young Cyclops has to deal with a bit of fallout over what old Cyclops did. The fight ebbs and flows. They get Juggernaut off the ship, so the X-Men take the advantage. You think he busts up through the ship, and the ship is now sinking. So now they have, once again, the back and forth of this one fight. I kind of like this. This is more detailed in the single fight. Here's a recurring theme of, this is Beast. He's now a magician. I'll get into that in another video maybe. But he basically sends him to hell. And Scott is not happy with that. Just like with Wolverine trying to kill Magneto, they all have the same objective, but he went a little rogue and he went about it differently than they would. Which, I don't know, you're not really going to subdue. What are you going to do, put handcuffs on Juggernaut? It's probably not going to happen. It's probably best if you send him to hell. Cut to Magneto. This is a quick tip for all you young people out there. If you go to your boss's office and it looks like this, with like this low-hanging mist, your boss is evil. So just know that going forward. Frame, he's definitely the bad guy. Meanwhile, in what looks like probably Canada, I imagine Canada's always frozen like this, so even in like July. So this book takes 4 panels to do the Meanwhile story. This book takes like 8 pages and really leaves nothing, you know, it doesn't leave you wondering about anything because it explains it. It just shows, okay, this is another Wolverine. I don't know who this guy is yet. I haven't read fully into the series. But honestly, if you ask me, the world does not need another Wolverine. So, lots of blood, lots of scratching, lots of screaming. Not the end. So, the 2 books, they have very different approaches to the fights. But, you know, you really see recurring themes of not everybody's on the same page as to the method. Sorry, I had to break away and do a quick edit. So you see in these 2 books that there's definitely the recurring themes that have always made team books interesting, that there's not a complete cohesion in the team. There's always some difference in opinion of how to achieve their goals, which always makes these team books very interesting. The Jean Grey-led team is pretty interesting. I like that. We'll see where that goes. And, you know, Beast being a magician now, that's... I'll go into that a little later. But this is a classic. This is timeless. Another contrast and comparison. There was maybe a few variant covers of this, maybe 1 or 2. For those of you who remember this was like this was one long picture. This had like 5 variant covers. What you think? Tell me if you like this, if I should I plan on doing it through maybe issue 8, just to see where these 2 books go in contrast to each other. Hit like, hit subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments. And yeah, I hope you liked it. Thank you.